Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Grieco here again with another episode of Deep Listens. And today's a special episode. I say it every week, but this time it's also true. We are going to be talking about Magic the Gathering, but it's going to be a very different conversation today because I am joined by Kyle Moran. You might know from the top 8 of the New Jersey Grand Prix, which is a very big Magic tournament that happens in New Jersey once a year. It draws over 1,000 people to, I think, Secaucus, New Jersey, which, heaven help you if you get drawn to Secaucus, New Jersey. And it just happens to be one of the biggest convention centers within the metropolitan New York area that is far enough away from New York City that you can just kind of host something like this without it being incredibly expensive or a nightmare. So it is a crazy thing. I went to it a year ago, but couldn't make it this year because of my honeymoon situation. However, Kyle is a friend of mine from this. I actually work at a store running Magic events in my spare time. He's one of my regular customers, and it was super nuts when I was at PAX East. I was actually at PAX East. That's what it was. I was at PAX East when you were at the GP, and I got a text saying, "Hey, I'm in the top 8." I was like, "What the hell?" So
yeah,
that was pretty crazy. And so I thought that it'd be great to have you on the show, talk to you about Magic and some of the new sets that are coming up, and to recount that experience, because that's insane. That's something that not a lot of people have gotten to experience. So before we discuss the GP, why don't you, when did you start playing Magic?
Yeah, sure. So I've been playing Magic for about 5 years now. I started right when Return to Ravnica came out, and I played about on and off for a year, pretty casually. Didn't really know what Standard was for the first little while because my friends, they gave me a deck. They're like, "Oh yeah, this deck's good, Kyle." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And in my first tournament, I happened to be casting Ponder when I was banned in Standard, and I was gonna get flack for it, but everyone was just like, "Oh yeah, this guy has no idea what he's doing," so it's all good. So I played that for a little bit. After a year, I started getting more into it. I started actually trying to make good decks. But I still kind of played the stuff that I like to play. Usually would play big green creatures. But that would win me sometimes. I'd go 2-2, 3-1 kind of stuff like that. Because the big green creatures would sometimes be pretty good, like Thragtusk and Huntmaster. That was one of my favorite standards. And then around Theros, I started to get actually in the Standard and trying to start metagaming and stuff like that. So I was immediately attracted to Control, given the tons of decision trees that given when you're playing Control. So if anyone remembers the blue-black Control deck back in Theros, that's what got me hooked. It was just one of my favorite decks I think I've ever played in Standard. Just the fact you have to use your resources in a perfect manner in order to win the game, but almost every game was winnable. So it was really great. And then after that, I just play whatever was good because I just noticed you can't really play Control all the time. Okay. Yeah, so you just can't play Control all the time, and that's just how that works. So, yes. Yeah, since then I've been playing the meta decks.
Yeah, I think since then at the beginning of most Standard seasons, you will ask, should I play this? And then you'll articulate some mediocre Control build.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. I would do that a lot.
And then I would be like, but why would you be doing that when there's this other good thing that you could do without walking a tightrope to potentially not have the right answer at the right time? And then at a certain point, you just were like, you're right. Why am I doing this?
Yeah, I just like greed sometimes. I just like playing big, dumb Control creatures or planeswalkers and seeing hopefully countering every single spell as you watch the morale slowly drain away from your opponent's soul.
So now that you've gotten kind of away from green creatures and green stompy decks, what color do you play? What is your favorite now? Have you graduated from the starting point of green all the way to now the end point of blue?
Yeah, I'd say that's about right. If I could play whatever deck I'd want, I'd still definitely play Control decks. But I understand at the same time that you just can't really play the deck you really want to play all the time. Even though I've played a lot of the meta decks, they aren't always fun, but it's kind of what you just got to play if you want to be successful. Because, like, I remember Green Black Delirium. That was, like, one of my least favorite decks ever playing in Standard. Because sometimes you just, like, sit there and you're like, oh, this deck's amazing. And, like, then other times playing as Aetherworks Marvel, and you're just like, I have my hands tied behind my back here. There's nothing I can do. But it was the best deck in the format, so it's what you had to play for a little while without our blue-white flash. But, you know.
Yep, you have to do that unless you're Shota Yasuoka. In which
Yeah.
case you play a control deck playing a bunch of one-ofs of cards people deem unplayable, and then you win the Pro Tour.
Yeah, play fourth thing in the ice in a Reflector Mage format. Who does he think he is?
I don't know. It worked out. Apparently that was the right thing to do, considering there was a Grixis control, blue-white control mirror match in the final, or Jeskai control. It was Grixis Jeskai mirror match in the finals. Who says control is dead?
Yeah, well, hopefully not with Amonkhet. We'll get to that later.
Yes, we shall see. So, when you went to GP New Jersey, how confident were you that you were going to win the top 8?
I'm going to be pretty honest with you right now, Gino. I went to GP New Jersey thinking I'm going to have a fun time. I'm going to scrub out day 1, have some fun side events day 2, go home, be like, that was a good weekend of Magic.
Now, to be fair, the GP that I went to last year, you did almost make day 2 in that GP as well with, I think it was Esper Dragons?
It was Esper Dragons. Yeah, I was one game away from making day 2. I was 5-2 going into round 9. I played against four-color Cryptolith, right? And he went all in on Normandal both games, and I did not have Foul Tongue or Silumgar, so I lost those games. That was a little demoralizing. But we came back.
Yes, came back with a vengeance.
Indeed.
And so I'm sure you spent a lot of time you had your deck, you were grinding, you were getting prepared. You were like, This is what, if I go down at GP New Jersey, this is the deck I'm going down with. I've put in the time, the sweat, equity, right?
I would love to say yes to that question. I would be like, the classic, you work so hard, you do it, you get there, and it's great. But again, I gotta be honest with you, and on about Thursday before the GP, I was like, crap, I have no standard deck to play for GP New Jersey. And my friend Alex was like, hey Kyle, I have 4-color Saheeli. You want to play it? And I'm like, okay. So I played like 3 rounds of standard on Thursday with the deck. And then and on Friday I played in the GP trial, and then Saturday I played in the GP. And that's the only time I ever played the deck, like, ever.
You know, you don't have to be so honest. You could have been like, yeah, totally. I was like Rocky in Rocky 4. I was training in the wilderness, just casting spells in the snow to get the feel for it.
Yeah, the honesty is what makes it funny, I think, at the very least.
And so listener, if you are a listener and you are not super familiar with Magic and where it's at right now, in Standard, not Jeskai Saheeli, 4-color Saheeli is kind of deck 1B of the format. There's Mardu Vehicles, which is a red, white, black vehicles deck, which is kind of the consensus best deck. And then there is just 4-color Saheeli, which is the consensus second best deck. But it is so good that it drives out anything that would be the third or fourth best deck. Those 2 decks are so good that they drive out everything else. And why 4-color Saheeli is kind of a boogeyman is it's got a 2-card infinite combo that wins the game as early as turn 4. And on top of having that as an option, that's actually pretty hard to disrupt, it also just plays a boatload of really good cards. So if they don't kill you with a 2-card combo that you have to constantly be afraid of, they will kill you with just their cards being better than yours. So it's a really frustrating deck to play against. The person playing against it has to be basically on point the whole time. And the 4-color deck, if you navigate properly, threatening the combo or playing the combo, you can really just beat people on the margins just by bluffing.
There's a lot of games where I was just able to be like, oh, I could have the combo. It's bluffing that I was like having the combo and holding it back, and my opponent would be playing more conservative lines, which would give me more time to resolve planeswalkers. Because that's a key part of the deck. It runs not that many instants of sorceries, but a lot of planeswalkers. So like while they're like holding up their creature removal to kill your Felidar Guardian, if you were to go for the combo, you can just slam down a Chandra, and a Hiri, a Tameo, and then the removal looks silly. So it's just like it attacks from so many angles. The deck's ridiculous, and I believe it's going to get banned. But, it was good while it lasted.
So while you were playing it, so how was the experience? Like, any big moments that you remember?
Yeah, there was a few. I think just starting on even before the actual GP on Friday, we arrived at the convention center at 6:45 because we heard on Friday there's a few events that you can do before the GP starts. And I saw as we were running in 6:45, I hadn't written on my deck list yet. At 7 o'clock, a GP trial was starting, and I was like, "Ooh, I should try that. That sounds like fun." So I scribbled down a deck list in 10 minutes, really fast. And I enter the GP trial. I'm like, let's see what happens. And in round 1, I win. Round 2, I win. Round 3, I win. And I get to round 4, which was the quarterfinals of the GP trial, because we gotten super lucky even to start. Because usually it's supposed to be 64 people for a GP trial, but only 32 showed up. So everyone made it past round 1 for a freebie. Yeah, kill it, got it. So we'd already made our money back because we all got round 1 wins, which is pretty sweet. So we were in the quarterfinals, and I was playing against the Grixis Dynavolt Tower deck. And game 1, I take pretty handily by actually pinging him out with Saheeli, the plus of Saheeli.
Great.
Just getting him. And then in game 2, he gets me game 2, and it was a really long grind fest between me blinking Rogue Refiners, him torrential gear hulking glimmers, lots of cards drawn, lots of spells fired on each side. Pretty good game. But game 3, we went to time, and since it was a single elimination tournament, it was the first and only time I'd gone to sudden death after the 5 turns, which if you're not familiar with, it's when whoever has the highest life total when sudden death occurs wins the game.
What?
And if the life totals are the same, whoever would gain life wins, or if someone loses life, they lose. So
What?
That was really weird. Because it was about turn, and I was able to steal the game by going turn 3 a Whirler Virtuoso, which in sudden death is a 3-mana 20/20 that summons a 20/20 with flying.
Yep.
And he then goes, and then on turn 4 I untap, and he goes, try to kill both your guys, and I'm like, negate one of their removal spells, hit you for 20 or 1, whatever works for you. And then he goes incendiary flow your face, and I'm like, oh, good thing I top decked this second negate. So I'll negate that too. And then he concedes. He's like, oh, so lucky. And I'm like, what can I say?
Sudden death is stupid, I guess.
Sudden death is stupid. You can't draw in a single elimination tournament, so they got to do something about it. Oh, man, that was good. And then after that, I won the semis. And in the finals, the guy was like, I'm like, so you want to split this? So I'll give you 100. Because we were playing for there's play points. There was 300 play points in the pot, and I'm like, hey, you want 200 of the play points, and I'll take the buys? And he's like, nah, I don't want that. Then I'm like, okay, let's play. And he's like, oh, wait. I didn't know how the prizes were set up. I actually do want to do that. And I'm like, okay, sounds good to me. So I went in the tournament with 2 buys, which is already something I'd never done in a GP or any big tournament before going in with buys. So it was really great because last time we went to a tournament, my friend Alex, he slept in super late, and we were late for the tournament because of that. So this time, you know what, Alex, you can sleep as late as you want. You do you. I'll just be here whenever you're ready. So we do get there on time still. I chill for 2 hours, get a civilized breakfast. It's pretty good. First time I did that at a tournament as well. And I win in round 3. I go off on a series of wins. It's pretty great. I think I was 5-0. 5-0. And I go into round 6, and there's Paul Rietzel there with Mardu vehicles. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. I'm playing against pros. I remember back when I did this in GT. I think I'd only played against 3 pros before then. So it was pretty cool playing against a pro. So I'm like, maybe I'll start having them all sign my mat, see how many I can get. So I have him sign my mat, and then we play. He thoroughly thrashes me in 2 games with Mardu vehicles with main deck ballistas, which is what they do now. So that's not really uncommon. But yeah, he had, when they curve out and he's a really good player, it's just really hard to win. So that game was pretty memorable. Just just seeing how the best deck in the hands of a master, how crazily oppressive that can feel. So
up until this point, how many Mardu vehicles, Saheeli matchups have you played?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I'd played against I'm trying to think if I even played against one non-Mardu vehicle Saheeli deck. I think at this
You
point
said you played against Grixis
Oh,
in
that
the
was in the trial. Yeah, in the
trial.
trial I did play against Grixis. That was true. I played against two Mardu. Oh yeah, I played against two Mardu. I remember in round one, I'm like when my deck, I was like, yeah, my deck's good because when he went turn four, he like slams a Gideon, and I had an Oath of Chandra in play. Then I slam a Chandra plus it, ding two, Oath of Chandra, ding two, and the look on his face was just priceless. I was just like,
I played the best card in the format, and now it's dead.
It's dead. My opponent was a Chandra. What happened? Oh yeah, but I don't think I played against a lot of Mardu and Saheeli. Yeah, I think the Grixis Dynamo Tower is the only deck at that point. There's another deck that I'm going to get to that was pretty ridiculous that was not Mardu or Grixis Dynamo, or not Mardu or Saheeli. So yeah, Parl Rietzel thrashes me. Then the next round I go against I didn't know the guy, but I did know when he went turn one Plains Authority of the Consuls in game one, I was in trouble.
He meant it. He said, I am not losing to Saheeli Rai today.
I know. I looked at him. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man.
So if you listener are out of Magic kind of expertise, Authority of the Consuls is a very early play that directly counters the deck that Kyle was playing. It is a 1 mana turn 1 play that is supposed to win the game by itself.
Yeah, it's whenever creatures enter the battlefield on your opponent's side, you gain 1 life, and creatures enter the battlefield tapped. So the way this Saheeli combo works is it puts an infinite, not actually infinite, but basically infinite number of 1/4 cats with haste in play. So if you have Authority in the Consuls in play, rather than dying to the cats, you just gain a bunch of life and their cats enter tapped, so you're good.
You gain infinite life instead.
Yeah, so it works out a lot better for you if your opponent tries to go for the combo. So, yeah, he was playing. I figured out after that he was playing Esper Control, and I was actually able to steal game one because, like, my deck. No, game one was the one I lost. Game two is the one I stole because game one I got thrashed because my deck was like I couldn't combo. My deck was bad. I can't combo, and he just kind of beat me up with Gear Hulks and Glimmers, and that was fun. Game two is the one I stole because, like, I got some Childless Trackers going, just draw a bunch of cards. He wasn't able to answer them. Just, par for the course. Game three was like a freaking slugfest because he brought in Spell Quellers and Thalia, like the 3-mana Thalia. I think that's the only Thalia.
So at this point, he probably has 12 main deck hate cards for you.
Oh yeah, he's got lots. This guy came prepared for 4 colors Saheeli. Like this Esper Control deck was pretty spicy, I gotta say. And, like, I was like, oh, crap, I'm getting beaten down by, like, 2 Spell Quellers and a Thalia, and this is super bad. And he has, like, a Chandra under 1 Spell Queller and a Tracker under another Spell Queller. And I'm like, and I just, like, draw the top card on my deck, and it's Sky Sovereign Consul Flagship. And I'm like, whoa, that's really good. So I cast the Sky Sovereign, and it somehow does not get countered. So I blow up the Spell Queller with Chandra under it, which then casts Chandra. Then I minus the Chandra on the other Spell Queller, which gets back Tracker. So then, like, now I'm like, okay, now I'm getting somewhere. But then he goes Gear Hulk next turn, and then, like, I start, like, losing a little traction, and he's, like, beating me down with, like, the Dahlia still, and I'm like, my life total's going down fast. And literally the turn before I was going to stabilize, he gets it. He activates a Shambling Vent. He plays another Gear Hulk, and he swings for exactly lethal. And I'm like, ugh, so close, so very close. So at that point, I'm 5-2. I'm still looking pretty good, but that was like it felt like going to those games. Like I was like, oh, if I did one little thing different, maybe it could have went a different way. Who knows? Mm-hmm. And then, but I'm like, oh man, because at this point I'm like, I just want to make day 2. That would be great. I've never day 2'd a GP before, so that would be amazing. Next round I play against.
At this point, were you feeling in the tank? Were you feeling like this? Were you starting to second guess yourself, or did you stabilize before the round started?
I'd say I was a little bit like, oh man, I'm a little rattled because I just took 2 losses in a row, and if it weren't for my buys, I'd be 3-2 right now, which isn't even that good. And I started thinking all these bad thoughts, and I'm like, come on, I can't do this. This is crazy. Like, I came here to have fun. I'm doing way better than I would have ever expected. Like, because one of the things that helped me calm down a lot of the times the tournament was I was like, I came here expecting to scrub out. So everything I do from this point is gravy. Like, absolutely everything.
I expected to already be dead by now. So
exactly.
Whatever.
And, like, every win I get is better than expected. So that calmed me down pretty well. Then in round 7, I played against a guy who was playing red black artifacts. At first, I thought he was on Mardu. Then he went turn 4 Thought Knot Seer instead of turn 4 Gideon. And I was like, if there's a god out there, they must be looking out for you right now because Thought Knot Seer is no Gideon. It is not a Gideon. It is so much easier to deal with than a Gideon. Because he just takes my Chandra, I harness lightning it, I draw a card. Sure, I'm down a Chandra, but it's not that big of a deal. And then he goes turn 6 Cataclysmic Gear Hulk, and I'm at like 8, and I'm like, all right, hit me. And it deals 2 damage, and I'm like, get him. And then I combo him out, and it's
Or
just
combustible.
like,
That's the red.
yeah,
Gear
sorry, yep, my bad. There, it's Combustible Gear Hulk. That's the one. It was the red Gear Hulk. Yeah, so then I combo him out by the skin of my teeth, and he actually gets a game on me because like Scrap Heap Scrounger backed by Unlicensed Disintegration is still a good game plan for winning Magic games.
It really helps when the rest of your game plan is Mardu vehicles, but even if your base game plan is Scrap Heap Scrounger with Unlicensed Disintegration, you're still playing 2 of the best like 10 cards in Standard, so you're doing okay.
You're still doing fine. Even if you're running Combustible Gear Hulk, those cards are still really good. So you still can get some wins. And in game 3, he kind of mulliganed down. I think it was 6 or 5. His hand was pretty dysfunctional. And that's another great thing about Saheeli. It takes you apart if your hand isn't ready to deal with anything. Like if your hand's weak in any way, it just keeps hitting that weak spot because it attacks from so many angles. So I was able to kind of just destroy him that game. And then I won the next round, and I was like round 9, round 9. I'm like, great, I made day 2. That's all I wanted to do. So I even told my opponent like the round 9 was gravy. He was also playing 4-color Saheeli. He was a nice guy, but he was like sick, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get sick after this, aren't I? Which lo and behold, I did. So
well, exposing yourself to the germs of 1,000 people by being trapped in this terrible like room full of BO and a lot of like people who haven't eaten for a while. The GP experience is something that I would recommend you try at least once, and then maybe not again. It really depends on how you like it, but it's a really unique experience. For sure.
I think it's like a once every 6 months kind of thing. You don't want to do it too often. You really don't. It gets really awful after a while, but
every so draining.
Oh yeah. It's every so often it's nice. Maybe like if you don't like Magic too much, like maybe once a year. If you do, maybe 6 months. And if you really like, you can go wherever. But that's not what I would ever do. So yeah, round 9. But like I just knew it was a little weird because he's like, oh, I don't want to shake your hand because I'm 6. I'm like, okay, I respect that. But then he like starts shuffling my deck and using my dice, and I'm like,
oh
no, man.
No, for respect, I don't want to. I want to just like straight up infect you by accident. This is some Indian blanket stuff. Like I'm acting like I'm being nice, but actually I'm giving you a terrible disease.
Yeah. And then like I beat him it was just like in game 3 he had a Sky Sovereign, and I'm just like, it's over. This sucks. Feels bad, man. But then like a turn after, he doesn't crew his Sky Sovereign. I'm like, oh, I smell blood. This is mine. And then I just take him apart because like I know his Sky Sovereign doesn't do anything. And it felt good. It felt really good. And then, like, afterwards, it was a little awkward because I'm like, oh, yeah, best of luck in day 2. And he's like, and he just stopped.
Well, you took day 2 from him?
No. He also made day 2 so when I was saying best of luck in day 2, I meant it. But he started saying YouTube, and he just stopped.
He was not prepared to lose.
Yeah, I guess so. He was still 6-3. He made day 2, so I wasn't being a jerk by telling him that. So I went to bed 7-2, wondering how the heck that happened. And I wake up in the first match. It's like my friends told me. I think it was like Shuhei Nakamura. I'm not sure. It was like one of like those Asian pros. I know it's because I didn't even know I was playing against the pro until Alex later told me, "Yo, you just played against a pro." And I was like, "Oh wait, really?" And he was playing like 4-color. I think it was Teamer Aetherworks Marvel. It was 4-color Teamer Aetherworks Marvel. And I'm like, what the heck's happening right now? Why is Aetherworks Marvel 7-2 in the tournament? And he, like, game 1, he goes like, he casts an Aetherworks Marvel in 4. He misses the first time. Well, miss meaning like he doesn't hit Ulamog.
Yeah, he doesn't kill you immediately.
Yeah.
So, listeners, if Mardu Vehicles is a really strong, aggressive deck. Saheeli, 4-color Saheeli is a combo deck. Aetherworks Marvel is another combo deck, but what it tries to do is cheat out incredibly big, powerful creatures very early in the game. Generally on turn 4, they want to play a card that is capable of wiping away half of your lands and then killing you in 2 attacks. Or 3 attacks.
Yep.
So they're pretty nasty. It's a pretty nasty deck, but it is very linear and very disruptible.
Mm-hmm. So so the first game he goes like I think it's like either Rogue Refiner or Whirler Virtuoso off the first hit, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Then the second hit he hits Wilmog, and then it's kind of over after that because like he does the I'm like because my back was kind of against the wall, and he was tapped out, but he had his Aetherworks Marvel up, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go for combo, and then he gets Wilmog and exiles my combo, and I'm like, okay, I lose. That was fun. So then game 2 I'm like, I have all these useless Harness Lightnings and Oath of Chandras because his creatures he doesn't have that many creatures. So I take those out, and I'm like, oh, I saw Aetherworks Marvel. Maybe release the Gremlins is good. And then, like, game 2, he plays on turn 3 a Dynavolt Tower, and I'm just like, man, thank God I brought these release the Gremlins. Like, I didn't even know he was playing Dynavolt Tower, but now I'm happy I did. And then, like, game 2, I get him with, like, the beatdown of a couple of Rogue Refiners and a couple of Gremlins. Kind of just
the Gremlins ate?
They literally ate him. They ate him and his inventions. They ate everything. So that was pretty good. Then in game 3, game 3 was great because I went turn 3 Saheeli, turn 4 Felidar Guardian. He's like, oh, that's pretty good. And he kills the first Felidar Guardian. I'm like, turn 5 Felidar Guardian. And he's like, oh, that's pretty good. And he kills that one too. And I'm just like, turn 6 Felidar Guardian. And he's like, oh, okay, that one resolves. I'm like, kill you. And he's like, okay.
Yep, you did it.
I did it. It was great. Oh, man. So that was great. And I figured out apparently he was a pro later. And I was like, whoa, you didn't get his signature? And I'm like, I guess not. Whoops. And then like the next, I think it was like then I won like a couple rounds, some pretty boring mirrors that you don't really need to hear about. You kind of like.
You played Saheeli and then they didn't have it, or you played Saheeli and you didn't have it.
Yeah, basically that's how a couple of the games went, and then like does get interesting post board. How like a lot of the times, I feel like I was the only one playing Nahiri, which was pretty huge in the mirror because we both stick down our authorities of the consoles. And then like on turn 20 or something, I just cast Nahiri and they'd be like, ah, shit, there goes my combo protection. I guess I lose.
Yep.
So that's how I won a lot of my mirrors. If you're ever thinking about playing this deck and it somehow does not get banned, play a Nahiri in your sideboard. Just one. You only need one. Just put it in there. It's great. It's really great. Like my friend actually had to convince me to put it in there, and thank God he did, because I would have gotten a lot more draws if I didn't put that in there. So yeah, where was it? Oh yeah, and then this like the next boring mirrors win a lot of those. Still X and 2. I think it was around 13 or 14 at this point. Definitely not. Oh no, around 13 I think. And this was definitely the most it wasn't the most intense game of the tournament, but it was the game I bamboozled my opponent the hardest.
Bamboozled them from all angles?
It was the big. I think it was one of the biggest bamboozles I've ever had in Magic. Because like I was playing against Green Black Sneck, and game 1 he beats me down with a pretty efficient curve, and I'm
amazed that a Green-Black Snake player. So, listeners, Green-Black Snake it used to be the third pillar of the format before 4-color Saheeli just kind of became the de facto combo deck of the format, and it just immediately upon its inception pushed that deck all the way down like a bully taking lunch from a school kid. So Green-Black Snake is kind of this big, beefy creature deck that is hoping to edge out a little bit of aggression because of some synergies, but it is very easy to go over the top of what it is trying to do or to control it if you're playing a control deck. It generally is just one of the most consistent mid-range decks in the format, but unfortunately it is not as good at anything it's trying to do as Mardu is, and Saheeli just goes way the heck over the top of it.
Yep, just like they only have Fatal Pushes and Walking Blisses to beat the combo, so you're usually free for takeoff a lot of the time. So yeah, the game I was playing, game 1, he beats me down with a very efficient, very fast curve. When you go turn 2 Snake, turn 3 Rich Card, lots of counters, lots of beatdown. Gear Hook on 4, you're just like, oh god, that's way too much.
Achievement unlocked on that one.
Yep, got me.
He got the curve.
And it was really hard. It was really hard to beat that curve. Like it's really good. So he beats me game one with that. Game two is really interesting because like he goes down a mulligan. He's on 6, so his curve isn't nearly as scary as it was last time. But he still gets some stuff with snakes and Nissas, and I am like, and he actually gets me down to like stone 1, and I'm like digging for the combo, and I'm like, come, and I have like an oath of Nissa, and I'm like, nope, nope, and the third one's Sahili, and I'm like, oh, I have a guardian in play, got him. Oh, and it was just like barely squeezing it out. Like I had to be really efficient with my removal. It was really tight game. Not as it was ridiculous, but not as ridiculous. The game 3 though, that was the one that took the cake. Like my God. So my back basically I can just like the first, like he's on a mulligan to 6 again, which is but he still has one of the like a really aggressive draw, like ridiculously aggressive. I'm using Harness Lightnings just like basically to hold on barely, and like Othachana trying to like keep him back, but he's still like the snakes and the Nissas are just going off, and he's getting crazy amounts of power. And I find myself on, I think it was like turn 6 or 5 or like, and I'm at 9, and I'm facing down 2 Walking Ballistas at 2 each, and a Aether Sphere Harvester with a counter on it. And I have 2 Servants of the Conduit and a Chandra in hand. And I'm like, well, this is really bad. Okay, I'm like, it's like, you know what? I'm like thinking about playing the Chandra, and I'm like, I don't really know. I shouldn't, like, if oh no, it's like, I feel like the only way I win this game is if I like top deck the one of's Baral's Expertise in my deck, and then maybe something happens. Dot dot dot. And I'm like, oh lol. Well, okay, I'm not gonna win this game, but you know, I'll just do that. Might as well. So then he hits me down. I'm able to. So, oh wait, no, I must have had 15 because it was at 9 when I untap and draw. So yeah, he hits me down to 9. And then I untap, I draw. I actually draw the Baral's Expertise, and I'm like, oh
yeah.
I'm like, oh my God.
Get there.
Oh, it gets better / worse depending on what side of the table you're on. So I'm like, oh, okay. I cast Baral's Expertise on your 2 Walking Ballistas and your Aether Sphere Harvester, and he also has an he also had a Greenbelt Rampager for whatever reason. So I'm like, okay,
just needed more beef. He needed
more beef, just more stuff. Yeah, just like. So, and I'm like, okay, cast Baral's Expertise on the 2 Walking Ballistas and the Aether Sphere. He's like, wait, what does that do? And he reads it. He's like, okay, I'm going to kill one of your servants with the ballista counters. I'm like, sure, whatever. And then I'm like, okay, cast this Chandra. And he's like, oh, man. And I'm like, uh-huh. And then I'm like, okay, minus on the green belt. And next thing you know, I have a Servant of the Conduit and a Chandra. And a complete with it's Chandra with a Servant protecting it. So it's actually looking kind of okay. But then he top decks like another ballista, and I'm like, so he goes like ballista, kill your Chandra, ballista, and I'm like, uh-oh, this is looking bad again. So then I'm like, because I have no cards in hand at this point. Like I'm completely out of gas. Like no Oath of Nissa either, so I can't even like get Felidar Guardian to blink that and try and go bamboozle with Sahili. So I'm like, okay, I untap and I draw Oath of Nissa. I'm like, okay, this is also really good. So I cast Oath of Nissa, look at the top 3, reveal Nahiri, and I'm like, okay, that's also really good. Play Nahiri, tick her up. I have no cards in hand, so nothing happens there, but I put her to 6. Then I draw a land. I'm like, okay, Nahiri, you know what to do. Nahiri gets rid of the land. Then I draw Felidar Guardian. I'm like, wait, is this actually happening? As he's beating me down and like redeploying his stuff. And I'm like, well, I can't actually do it yet because he still has a ballista. So I'm like, okay, I'll cast the Felidar Guardian, blink my Oath of Nissa, and I find a Chandra. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I can kill the wait, what? So then I'm like, okay, I untap, I draw, I play the Chandra, I draw another blank, play the Chandra, kill his ballista, barely holding on because he's got his Aether Sphere Harvester in play now, and I think he got like another creature as well. So he's like beating me down.
And it's fair to say that at this point you have drawn from a bunch of completely playable cards that otherwise are not exceptional. You have cobbled together just a string of card advantage.
Yeah,
just by shoestrings in this deck that is supposed to be about a horrible combo and like a bunch of value stuff. You have somehow gained card advantage over this person who is bearing down on you with a very aggressive deck.
Yep, and put like 15 power on turn 3, like not maybe turn 4, but still. Snack with Nissa puts a lot of power and play very fast. And then I'm like, okay, this is really crazy. So I untap, and we're almost in time at this point. So I'm like, okay, I really got to make a move here. And I'm like, so I'm like, I don't know if he has it. He has 1 card in hand. He's representing like a fatal push, and he had like a tracker clue. And I'm like, oh man. So I'm like, all right, I'll ultimate my Nahiri, and I'll blink my Oath of Nissa, and I look at the top three, and I see two blanks and a Felidar. So I'm like, okay, another Felidar Guardian. Play the Felidar Guardian, blink the Oath again. Nope, nope, Saheeli. And I'm like, slam the Saheeli, and he's just like, yep, that does it. I'm like, did I just win this game?
Yes.
He had two Walking Ballistas on two, an Aether Sphere Harvester with a counter, and I had two Servants and nothing. And
the combo's real degenerate.
It's not even just the combo. It's just like I was able to claw back from nothing. I had no resources, and then I had resources. It was just wild. Absolutely. Like, my opponent was a really good sport, though. He was like, good games. Wish you best of luck. If he was salty, he didn't show it at all. So, like, he even asked me how I was doing in later rounds, which is, like, super great. Nice guy.
So, day two, I have never been to day two. What is the environment like in terms of how many people are there? Like, is it a much more muted situation?
Well, there's, like, it feels a lot like it's like, if you're ever at the top tables of a normal Grand Prix, like, it still feels similar to that. There's definitely less people, but one of the things I noticed, like, about day two that I definitely wasn't at day one is everyone was just kind of nice. Like, no one, like, when you think Magic players, like, oh, it's so salty, so awful all the time. Like, not all the time, but, like, you've had some really awful Magic players, like, oh my god, I didn't draw this is so terrible. There's just no one like that. Everyone was just like, yeah, good game and best of luck in the next rounds. Like, no one was just everyone was just good people. I don't know. Maybe that was a coincidence, but
yeah, I mean, I would guess that the people who would get that upset and that salty and that belligerent probably wouldn't be able to keep it cool long enough to get far enough into the tournament to be on day two.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
If you're that kind of petty, and it's probably because you're not actually that great at the game, and so you get really upset.
Yeah, I remember when I first started, I was like, I got really salty and like awful like that. And like a lot of times, like later I figured out it's really just because I didn't play perfectly. It wasn't even like you can attribute almost anything, not everything. Sometimes it is just pure luck, but almost anything to like a mistake you made somewhere in the game. Like Magic's a pretty good game. Let's just be real here.
There's a reason why there are people who are pros and they repeatedly win.
Exactly. It's because they know the lines.
Yes.
Not because they're always lucky. So, yeah, like, the tournament. So I bamboozled my green-black opponent. And, like,
from all angles.
From all angles. It's like top deck. It's like I got the Baral's Expertise, which I was only running as a what-of, then into the Oath, into the Planeswalker, into the three Felidar Guardians, into the Saheeli, and I'm just like, yeah, that was crazy. So I'm like off like on a wave of adrenaline high, and I'm just great. So I beat another guy playing Mardu vehicles who on game 3 just only has two. He only has two Spires of Industry. So I blow up his Heart of Kieran, and then he just has 2 brown lands.
That's unfortunate.
So yep, that went pretty well. That was pretty nice. And then the last round of the GP, I'm like, and I just draw on the top 8. Like this is crazy. How am I even close to top 8 right now? How is that even happening? But it was happening, I guess. So I was like, so maybe I can draw. I'm like, oh no, I looked at my standings. I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to draw in the top 8. I actually have to win even in order to get in the top 8. So that's a thing, I guess. And I go look at, I'm like, all right, let's see who I'm playing against. I look at my standings, and I'm playing against Oliver Tu, which, if you guys don't know, he's a distinguished pro who's known for being really good because, like, at his age, he's like way better than you should be. One of my like personal idols because he's able to be so good at Magic at such a young age.
How old is he?
He's 19.
Okay.
He's top 8 at a couple Pro Tours, and he's 19 years old. Like I think he top 8 at the first Pro Tour. I think he was like 15 or something like that. So absolutely crazy Magic player. And he was also playing Mardu. He was a nice guy. He was at Boston College, so I guess we're gonna be going to college in the same area once that happens. Once I go to college. So and in game one, he's like we're playing some lands. He plays like Toolcraft, Heart of Kieran, basic standard stuff. But on turn 3, he plays a Needle Spires, and then he's like, oh, wait a minute, I meant to play this Inspiring Vantage. And I'm like, nah, dude, you played Needle Spires. That's how that works. And he's like, oh, can we call over a judge? I'm like, yeah, sure, we can call over a judge. So I call over a judge, and the judge says, yeah, dude, you played Needle Spires. That's what happens. Yep. And I'm like, Yeah, that's what happens.
We're
So
at the top table. Like,
yeah,
this is win and get in the top 8.
Yeah,
Don't
it's like,
play Needle Spires when you want to play the other card.
yeah, dude. Like, and I'm like, yeah, like Brian Van Duren's watching our game rather than me watching his game. So like you can't do that stuff here. So and then so he throws himself off curve, and because of that just minor hiccup, I'm able to like play a Chandra with protection, and I'm able to like basically piggyback off her card advantage in order to win the game.
It's worth mentioning that by throwing that tiny hiccup, by playing the Needle Spires, he probably also threw him off 2 turns, because if he then plays the Inspiring Vantage second, that comes in tapped as well. So he basically screwed up his mana for 2 consecutive turns.
Yeah,
he had to play off curve twice.
He had a Gideon in his hand, and he couldn't play it till turn 5 rather than turn 4, which is actually just gigantic. Because, like, when you play Gideon on turn 5, you got a Chandra in play, you got pressure on board. Gideon isn't long for this world. When you play on turn 4, your Chandra isn't quite ready to go. He can, like, get some allies going to protect Gideon. He can start hitting Chandra. Humongous difference. Absolutely gigantic. Like, the games where you have to play against Gideon and the games without Gideon are just night and day. They're absolutely crazy different. So much easier without Gideon. Dear God, I hate that card. Oh man. So yeah, game 1 I'm able to take because of that mistake. And then game 2, we get into a huge slugfest. I like cast or release the gremlins for 2 to knock out 2 vehicles. I have his back against the wall, and his hands are literally shaking. And I'm like, oh my God, this is happening, isn't it? I'm about to beat this guy in 2 games. And like he's like, and like from the look of his face, he's like, yeah, that's exactly what's about to happen. And I'm able, and like he makes a really good play where like he plays he just has a Thraben Inspector on 5, and I play a Chandra, and he's like, okay, animate the Needle Spires, kill your Chandra. I'm like, yep, fair enough. And then then on turn 6, I go Oath of Nissa, find another Chandra, plus it for 2 red, and harness lightning the Thraben Inspector, so he can't do the same play again. He's like, and from the moment he's like, oh no, and I'm like, oh yeah. And then after that, like that Chandra, since I did that play, was able to stick, and I'm able to get combo when he has to. Because the thing is, once you fall behind from Planeswalkers, you have to get more risky. And you have to start tapping out for threats in order to try and get back, which then makes you vulnerable to the combo since you're not protecting yourself against that.
Yep.
So it's just a damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I combo him out, and the game ends, and I'm like sitting there thinking, wow, I just top 8 a GP. And I'm like, so they give us a little bit of a break. I do a bio. Like if you want to see that, I don't know if you would. They have it posted on their website.
Yeah, I read your bio, and it was like, why am I here? This is crazy.
Yeah, basically that's basically what it sums up to. Like, it was really funny. Like, and then in top 8, I'm sitting next to the Hall of Fame, or sitting across from the Hall of Famer Ben Stark, and we're about to play a game of Magic the Gathering for $1,000, and I'm like, is this life right now? Like, what's happening? How am I sitting across from Ben Stark right now? And Ben Stark, he's a really nice guy. He's also a really, really, really good Magic player. Like, because like in game 1, I'm able to take the game because he taps out for a Verdurous Gearhulk, and I'm able to beat off enough of the damage because I go for a Tameo that he has to answer, and so then he goes to the Gearhulk, I go to Healy combo, and he dies. So that's how game 1 goes. We go to sideboarding. And game 2, it's kind of a slugfest. He beats me down, and like I go for the turn 6 combo. He disintegrates the Guardian. That's kind of just game. And then game 3 was one of the more intense Magic games I had ever played.
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah.
Top 8 for GP, game 3, win, and you're in even more prize money.
Mm-hmm. And pro points for whatever that's worth.
For whatever that's worth.
I don't think, given how much I play Magic, probably not much. But hey,
Not with that attitude.
Yeah. So, and in game 3, we have the most intense game. Like, where for like 5 turns, he represents Fatal Push, and I know he has Fatal in his deck because we get our deck lists. So he knows what I'm playing. I know what he's playing. So it's no surprises. So he's also, I forgot to mention, he's playing like a Jund energy deck, which is also super weird. So if I'm saying like Tireless Tracker and License Disintegration, that's why he's playing both of those cards. If you're in standard, you're like, wait, what's up right now?
Yeah, he was playing He was one of the few people. I think he was the only person in the top 8 who was playing something other than Mardu and Saheeli.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that's completely correct. He was, because he is Ben Stark, so he kind of just does what he does.
Gotta innovate.
Yeah. So and then we go. So there's on turn. I actually do have, or I had the turn 6 combo, but I'm I look at his mana. He's clearly representing Fatal Push or Unlicensed Disintegration, and I'm and I have this Rogue Refiner. I'm you know what? I don't think I need to go for combo here. I can just get some more resources, try and grind him out, and maybe when he gets desperate, because I'm up so many resources, he tops out, and then I kill him with the combo. And then there's this crucial turn where I plus one of my Saheeli I have in play, and I see another Saheeli on top, and I'm man, I don't know if I keep this on top or not, because I already have a Saheeli in play. But if he kills it, then I'm not sure. But but then the reason I come to is I already have a Saheeli in play, and this Saheeli literally does nothing if he doesn't just kill this. If he not only doesn't kill the Saheeli, but he has to kill the Saheeli and tap out. Because I wasn't going to go for combo anyway if he was still holding up the mana. So I'm okay, I'll ship it to the bottom.
No!
But then, lo and behold, the next turn, he kills my Saheeli and taps out. And I'm God, well, no.
Redundancy.
No, why is this the turn you chose to tap out? Why did you tap out?
Combo redundancy, Kyle.
But the Saheeli was useless, and I was whatever. Yeah.
You had the Felidar, right? You had both halves.
I had the Felidar. That was the thing. So I was waiting. So I'm he had. Yeah. So okay. Yeah, I was back. So we're back. He plays a stupid Lathu Helion, kills my Saheeli. I get some good trades because he has to send a lot of stuff at Saheeli in order to kill it. So I'm yeah, so I'm okay, I know I don't have a Saheeli on top, but when he passes the turn, I go Felidar Guardian, Blink Oathness, and I'm please just have a Saheeli in the top 3. There's no Saheeli in the top 3. So I'm just okay, pass the turn. And slowly he gets chip shots him with Scrap Heap Scroungers after killing a bunch of my guys. We both have giant as hell tireless trackers. So we've all drawn a million cards, and it's and then he's and he gets a few unlicensed disintegrations, my life total whittles away. And then eventually he gets enough and he kills me for exactly lethal. So it was a really, really tight game all throughout, especially because later I'd figured out that he sided out the Fatal Pushes in game 2. So all that time he was representing Fatal Push, he didn't have it. So that was something. But he did, at the same time, he did say I wouldn't have went for it if I was in your spot either. So, at least I know that play wasn't wrong. I think the only play that was wrong was that one scry. I call it, well, affectionately, I call it to myself the $1,000 scry.
Yep. That's pretty rough.
Yeah.
That is, and now we've learned a valuable lesson about combo redundancy.
Yeah, honestly though, I was still pretty happy. I'd gotten $1,500. I got 4 pro points. I got a trip to Kyoto that I'm super hyped to go on this July. And somehow, if I do well in the Pro Tour, who knows? Maybe
there are more pro points there.
There are more pro points. Or if you go 11-5, you get to go to the next Pro Tour. Hype.
Yes. So are you starting your preparation? Well, I guess you can't really start your preparation yet because which Pro Tour is it? It's Pro Tour.
It's Hour of Devastation. Yeah, I gotta kind of see the Hour of Devastation cards because the way, if anyone isn't aware how the Pro Tour works, they do a few rounds. They do 3 rounds of drafting, 6 rounds of constructed, 3 rounds of drafting, and 6 rounds of constructed. Is that right? Yeah. No, I think it's 3 rounds of 6 rounds of drafting and 6 and 9 rounds of constructed. That's what it is. My bad. So yeah, they do 2 drafts, 3 rounds each, and then 9 rounds of constructed, split between the 2 drafts. So in order to prepare for the Pro Tour, I'd have to know Hour of Devastation since it would be an Amonkhet Hour of Devastation draft.
Yeah, and so you probably should learn Amonkhet first, and then worry
let's
about.
Let's start
Pro
there.
Tour.
Yeah, Amonkhet though, that set looks pretty exciting. I gotta say.
Yes,
we just got the whole spoiler.
Once again, congratulations. Kyoto is going to be fun. I have been.
Oh, yes.
It's a great city. You will at the very least get to see a very beautiful city and have great opportunities for tourism.
Mm-hmm.
Brush up on your Japanese. Ohayo gozaimasu. Arigato gozaimasu. Just get that on, and then you'll be great. You have to do me a favor. You have to go to Mr. Donut.
Mr. Donut. All right.
You have to go to Mr. Donut. It's a great donut chain in Japan. It's very solid.
Nice. All right, I'll keep that in mind. I will.
Oh, and you want Yatsuhashi mochi. It's delicious. It is a Kyoto local brand, and it is exceptional. There will be a ton of places that like give out a bajillion D samples of this mochi, like near any of the temples. You want some of those. You want that.
All right. Well, I'll keep that in mind. It sounds awesome. Like, I'm just super excited. Like, I don't know how well I'm gonna do with the pro, so I'll be honest. Like, this whole Grand Prix, I feel like was like just a crazy hot streak.
No. You're doing it wrong. I'm gonna show up to the pro tour, and they're gonna know about me. Everyone's gonna leave knowing about Kyle.
That would be insane.
They're gonna say that Kyle kid, next up and comer.
Yeah.
Gotta have that. Gotta be positive.
Yeah, become the new young lad, because it was funny when I was playing against Oliver T. You said, usually I'm the one who's called the young lad, but I can call you a young lad now.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
So, Amonkhet.
Yeah, lots of stuff there. It's like, my God, I don't even know what to do. Let
me pull up the spoiler just to see for my own edification here.
Yeah, I just pulled it up myself.
I don't have it off the dome at all times. Are there any cards that jump out to you? You are now officially as qualified or more qualified than me to comment on these things.
I guess I am.
I guess that's how results work, right?
Yeah, that is kind of how it works. Now even if I'm not, I can call myself a Magic Pro, and I'm probably going to call myself a Magic Pro.
You are more of a Magic Pro than me. That is true, though I am more experienced than you.
Yeah, I have 4 pro points to my name. That means I
have none.
That's great.
So let's see. Things that jump out to you in Amonkhet.
Yeah, like, I think I'll just start with the obvious ones. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's like when I look at Gideon and Liliana, I'm like, okay, Wizards. So we had a great Gideon in our last format and a great Liliana as well. So you're just like, yeah, let's just give us another one. Like, the cards look like, I'm just looking at them. I'm like, Gideon the Childs, when I first looked at the card, I was like, oh my God, this looks pretty good. But I looked at it again. It's kind of like, if you think about if you guys know the card Platinum Angel, it's a 7-mana 4/4 with flying, and it makes you so you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game. Gideon's kind of just the 3-mana Platinum Angel. Like, yes, it has the downside that it can be attacked, but it also has the upside of being a Planeswalker that can protect itself and be indestructible. So basically, you're getting a 4-mana discount on a card that was already pretty okay. Like,
and the thing that jumped out to me the first time I saw Gideon was when I read his third ability, where you get an emblem as long as you control him, you can't lose the game, and your opponent can't win the game. I looked at it and I'm like, oh, that's a good -3. I see that's a good reason why you would want to do that. And then I looked at it again and went, oh, that's a 0.
Yeah, that's a 0.
Or you just get that. You can just do that whenever you want at your leisure. And then I read his +1, which just locks down the thing so that it can't damage you until your next turn. Yeah. And I'm like, this might be one of the best control planeswalkers I've seen in a very long time.
Oh yeah. Like when you see it's a permanent though. It's like, because like it's one of the few answers to like stupid stuff like Heart of Kirin or like Manlands, like basically everything. It's just like there's never been such a versatile answer.
As long as you can get your opponent down to one threat that you care about. And it has to be a threat that deals more than like 1 or 2 damage, because Gideon will just out loyalty them. He can get locked down for multiple turns if they don't kill Gideon very quickly. So you can just keep plussing him. And if you're a control deck, eventually you can 0 him for the emblem if you want, or you can just 0 him to make him a 4/4 indestructible and just beat your opponent to death.
Yup. Also, it's a really important thing to mention is it costs, like, the fact that you can just like lock down a permanent means your opponent has to commit more onto the board in order to like
run into 2-for-1s.
Exactly. And like if you're a control deck, you're probably running this card probably is gonna be ran with Fumigate. So you plus on one of their creatures, they play 2 more and under the pressure getting, you Fumigate them for a 3-for-1. And it's like, that's great. That's amazing. And then one other synergy with Gideon that I'm just like, I don't know if Wizards missed this or maybe they didn't. They just I just don't understand. Like the other card, Glorious End, it's basically end the turn, so it's kind of like a time walk, but at the end of beginning of your end step, you lose the game. So this card, I love it. It's such a cool card. It's like going in the Hail Mary, like you're just like I'm gonna like do it. I have to make it sure it works this turn, all or nothing. But Gideon just like, it's okay. You can just have a 3-mana time walk. It's all good.
But unlike a 3-mana time walk, this one is an instant, and it says end the turn. So if your opponent's trying to cast a spell, you can cast it.
You can
then
just like summary dismissal
their spell. And so you get to steal their turn and their mana.
It's just honestly, yeah, it just doesn't make sense in the same set too. It's just like how sickeningly obvious do you have to make it, Wizards? Like,
yeah. And the craziest thing I think with these is we had articulated all the different ways that Gideon can be played in a control deck, like how good it is in that. But with Glorious End, you can just play it in aggro deck too. If you want to build a red-white aggro deck, you can curve the heck out and then steal a turn from them and kill them that way.
It does this thing called crewing Heart of Kiran. It's pretty good at that.
It's very good at that.
It's very good at crewing Heart of Kiran.
It can crew Heart of Kiran two different ways.
Yep. It most certainly can, and I could see reasons for both of those being right. But yeah, we get. I think everyone it's pretty obvious Gideon is good. So we don't need to spend all the time in the world on it. Like, it's just so ridiculous. But other cards,
Liliana's also very good.
Oh yeah, Liliana. Like, one of the cards I thought about when Liliana, I read this article on Channel Fireball. I was like, do you remember the deck Solar Flare? It was kind of like it was kind of like a control deck. Well, for the viewers, there was a control deck that ran big monster creatures and it just had Zombify, so they could discard. They could discard or put them in the graveyard, and they can just pop them back out. Liliana feels like it would be really good in a deck like that because her -3 is just a Zombify for 5 mana that leaves you with the 2 loyalty Planeswalker in play.
And Zombify usually costs 4, so 5 mana and getting a Planeswalker with your Zombify is totally reasonable.
Yes, and not only any Planeswalker, a really busted Planeswalker too. This isn't a Tibble. This is a good Planeswalker.
Yes.
My God, and that ultimate too. It's not oh my God, I win the game, but it's like a Plague Wind. 5 mana Plague Wind. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I'm just looking at the gods and I don't know, I like most of them, but it just feels like I have to work so hard in order to make them work. Do you have any thoughts besides that, or?
I think the red. So on the gods specifically, I think the red one is probably one of the cases where you aren't actually working that hard if you're playing an aggro deck, like a red aggro deck, tap out. Turn 4 is usually the point where you have an empty hand anyway, and so getting a 5/4 indestructible haste.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty.
Turns all your future cards into shocks is actually exactly what a tap-out red aggro deck wants. So I think that it just slots really nicely. If there's an aggressive red deck wins style of deck, I think it just slots right in at the 4 spot.
Yeah.
Or at least it competes with things like Golden Knight Castigator.
That's
true.
Spot. Oh, I think it's much better than Golden Knight Castigator. Castigator, the downside on that card was absolutely
the downside is real, but Golden Knight Castigator saw play.
Yeah, it did.
Some blue-red Flyers decks. And the fact that it flies, you can make the argument that the flying so that the damage actually gets through might be more relevant than the indestructible resilience. But it really depends on how exactsies you're trying to get with
That's
your damage.
Fair. Yeah, no, I think, now that you mentioned it, Harris is a little better. And it seems like in a lot of the cards, especially there's a 2 mana 4/3, and there's a few the Madness cards in the last set. A Heckbent deck might work.
Yes.
They put a lot of cards in this set that make you want to discard stuff, get your hand low. But I don't know how convinced I am, because I remember Hellbent was really bad. I played during that time, but
I played a Hellbent Rakdos deck when Rakdos was out with Hellbent.
Oh, was it good?
No, I mean it was not terrible. The problem, there's the obvious problems of Hellbent. You have no hand and your opponent has a hand, and that's a problem. And you really need your Hellbent benefits to be better than the fact that you don't have cards. And but the big difference between Hellbent back then and Heckbent now is that having one card is very different from having none. That's one big difference.
That is true.
And 2, with old Rakdos, you didn't have free ways to discard multiple cards in a turn. You had to use things like Rakdos Augur Mage, which was a 3/2 that let you see your opponent's hand and take a card from it, and then they saw your hand and took a card from you. It was a 3 mana 3/2 first strike. And you were using things like that to discard, or just casting spells directly. So, or Rakdos Guild Mage, you could discard cards to give creatures -2/2, but it was 4 mana discard to do that. So getting yourself down to 0 wasn't trivial unless you were using cards that, there was a card called Blissful Ignorance that was 2 mana, exile your hand until end of turn, then draw a card. So it turned on Hellbent for a turn, basically, for 2 mana.
Okay.
Which was okay, but if you're playing cards in your deck that all they do is turn on most of your cards, that's not a great use of resources.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you're playing aggro.
Yeah, in an aggro deck, and a lot of the benefits for Hellbent, like, they were all over the place. They weren't always just incredibly aggressive, very useful sort of stuff. So you ended up with a deck that, when you were Hellbent, could do really nasty things. Like, there was a 3-mana 3/4 that whenever it takes damage, you discard that many cards. But
Whoa.
when he's Hellbent, whenever he deals damage, both players discard that many cards. Or, like, the target player discards that many cards. So that was like, okay, now we're both going to be in on this terribleness. Whereas this current situation, cards like Noose Constrictor, and even like Peace of Mind, like, there are outlets that aren't good. Like, Noose Constrictor is good. Peace of Mind, not so.
Yeah, Peace of Mind, not good.
There's like the Vampires from Innistrad. There's a bunch of different discard outlets that are at the very least making you discard for value. And there are Madness cards that, when discarded, are valuable.
That's true. Yeah, the format is different. I'll give you that. Even the god herself, like, you can discard if you have to her.
Yeah.
So,
and discarding for shock is way better than some of the things, like, back in Time Spiral Ravnica block, standard, they had Fiery Temper, but that was one of the only Madness cards that you really wanted to play. Like, a lot of the other Madness cards were outright bad, or they were overcosted, or the way that you would trigger them at instant speed, like, required you to play auras or really bad cards. Whereas a lot of the cards that trigger Madness now give you real advantage. Like Noose Constrictor, discard your hand to Noose Constrictor, get them with all your Heckbent cards is a lot better of an outcome, I think, than some of the old Hellbent stuff.
Yeah, like, Wild Mongrel's proven itself very good before, so it could do it again. Even as
they
Reach
also
now.
printed this card in black that I think is very interesting for this style of deck specifically that we're talking about, called Shadow of the Grave.
Oh, yeah, that card. That's one I've been meaning to talk about, too. But yeah, you do yours first.
So it's 2 mana, return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that you cycled or discarded this turn, which is redundant because cycling forces you to discard, but I think that's just a little bit of rules text to help out new players. To remind them that cycling is discarding. But the nice thing is, if you pitch your whole hand to a Noose Constrictor, or you pitch your whole hand to some other effect, that refills your hand immediately with everything you discarded, which lets you do it again. So if you had 5 cards in hand, pitch them all to Noose Constrictor, except for Shadow of the Grave, played Shadow of the Grave, discard the 4 cards again, you were swinging with a 9/9 Noose Constrictor.
I think it's an 11/11, isn't it? Because that means you discard.
Oh, it's
2/2 base.
Well, you've discarded 4 cards, then you cast Shadow of the Grave.
Oh, okay, yep. So it'd be whatever. Yeah,
it'd be 10 damage.
10 damage. So we both wrong then.
Yeah,
nice.
We're both wrong, but you're at instant speed swinging for 10 damage that your opponent they thought you were swinging with a 2/2.
Yeah.
Threatening to pump it up to a 7/7, but actually you get them for 10, which is a real nasty swing.
Oh yeah, like, especially if you're playing an aggro deck, and like, not even mentioning if you have like another guy like the new Jackal, what's he called again? The Flameblade Adept, or if you have the blue-black guy, like all these new names. Got to start memorizing
the blue-black when you discard.
Shadowstorm Vizier. If you have either of those, that just doubles like crazy.
Or Drakehaven.
Or Drakehaven. Yeah, like
the black card, I think some sort of worship.
No, I know. Yeah, it's like Unwavering. Oh yeah, Faith of the Devoted here.
Yeah, Faith of the Devoted.
Yeah,
like, there's a bunch of cards that just do nasty thing. Archfiend of Ifnir. That card also does a real number if you discard.
Yeah.
So like all those cards come together like Voltron to make discarding. And that's not even to talk about the fact that with the Aftermath cards, the new split cards that you can play half of them from the graveyard, all of a sudden discarding your whole hand might actually effectively draw you new spells.
Yeah, especially that new blue one. Not that you played in like the deck we're talking about, but if you are playing a blue discardy deck, which could be a thing, they do have some good blue-black cycle stuff. The 4 mana not counter a spell, but kind of counter a spell, and then the 6 mana Aftermath, discard your hand, draw 7. That wants you to discard your hand.
Oh, no, it's not discard your hand. It's shuffle your hand into your library.
Oh, my bad. But still, same idea, where like it wants you to get your hand low, then you draw a lot of cards. Like a 6 mana spell from your graveyard that can draw you 7 cards. That is ridiculous.
It's very powerful.
It's very powerful, yes.
A lot of these different effects can be played in a deck when you were playing Hellbent before, like there was flashback, so you did have some of this dynamic going on, but I think that the format is a lot more forgiving of that kind of stuff now. Also, it's important to remember that back when those cards were being played, Wrath of God was around.
Oh,
so
man.
like 4-mana unconditional wipe your board was just a card people played very regularly. Like the spot removal was very strong, and the board wipes were a lot stronger. Whereas now, I think a lot of the creatures are better. Like the creatures with madness and the trigger madness are better, and the removal is slightly worse. So that I think that's
just a general trend
chance now.
Yeah, I just think that's a general trend of Magic, though. Just like creatures getting awesome, removal getting bad. Wizards. Whatever. But on Shadow of the Grave, there's actually like one of the first decks that's like I've been thinking about and brewing. I'm not sure like it's gonna be good, but the fact of the matter is like the ceiling of this deck is so ridiculous that I feel like I have to talk about it. There's like I was thinking like because the new card that got, or it's actually kind of old now, but the card New Perspectives, when it got spoiled, when I first saw this card, I'm like, I gotta keep an eye on this card because this card looks like it is so breakable. Like if they accidentally print one thing, it's just gonna it's gonna blow up. And then I saw Shadow of the Grave. I'm like, oh man, I think this is the one thing, because this kind of enables like another turn 6 combo deck really, where if you play a lot of cycling guys or just things that cycle, and you kind of keep your hand at least 5 cards, which yes is a thing, but it's not like impossible. So you can play turns.
New Perspectives is when it enters, it's a 6-mana enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you draw 3 cards. But then as long as you have 7 or more cards in hand, rather than paying cycling costs, you can pay 0.
Yeah.
So that means everything you have that has cycling cycles for free from now on.
So yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned that. But all right, so yeah, if you have the 7 cards in hand, and you just play this, and you have a ton of cyclers, what you can do is they had a cycle of cards that's like if you cycle these, you get value as well, but they're a little expensive to cycle. 2 of them particularly is there's the Vizier of Tumbling Sands, which is when you cycle it, you untap a permanent, which in a sense, when you have New Perspectives in play, nets you a mana. And there's Chefnet Monitor, which is a 6-mana 6/5. We're cycling for 4. And when you cycle it, you get a basic land or desert card. And deserts are they're like the new land type that like produce colorless mana, and they also have an upside, but none of them are there's a couple of them that are okay, but that's less important. So you basically get a land you put into play untapped. Like it comes into play and so it's another way to net a mana. So you basically have, in a sense, 8 Lotus Petal draw cards in your deck. And then once you find 2 of them, you cycle 2 of them, you have 2 mana, you can cast a Shadow of the Grave to get back all the stuff you cycled and just keep going. And then once you have a million cards in hand, because you've casted a ton of Shadows of the Grave, and you also casted...
And everything you're cycling is replacing itself.
Yep, that's very important, because that makes it super hard to fizzle, because the only cards that make you fizzle are non-cycling cards. And you won't
lands.
Even some of the lands cycle.
Yeah.
Even some of the lands. Specifically, it's a few lands and Shadow of the Grave are the only cards that fizzle the combo. And not to mention, you have to have 7 cards in hand to even start this combo. So the fizzle rate is ridiculously low. And if you ever cast one Shadow of the Grave, it's virtually impossible to fizzle. So once you keep going, you can get a bunch of mana, because every time you get back your Lotus Petals, because they have cycling. So you can net actually a significant amount of mana, which then allows you to cast I was either thinking Faithful Showdown was the one I was on, which is it deals damage to target creature or player equals the number of cards in your hand. And since you just Shadowed for the Grave a bunch of times, you have a lot of cards in hand. And then you discard your hand and draw that many cards, which on one side can be a downside if you go through too much of your deck. But on the other hand, if you're just playing a deck with a lot of cycling things, a lot of the cycling things don't really care if you're actually cycling the cards. So if you discard them to Faithful Showdown, that'll trigger your Drake Havens or your Faith of the Devoteds or your Pristine or your blue black. What's the blue black? Oh, the Shadow Storm Vizier. It'll trigger all of that. Mm-hmm. So it kind of fits with the whole strategy as well.
I only need to play one because of how much filtering you have.
Exactly.
Card draw.
That's the thing though. You can play only one, but you can also play more because it just kind of fits with the deck. It's just good deck building. It's a piece that just it kind of works. Yeah. And so I haven't there's actually 2 when I was trying to make a first draft for this deck, there are actually too many good cards I wanted to play. So I'm not sure which cards are the exact right ones to play. But like on that, if there's like too many good cards to play, I'm pretty sure either me or a pro or somebody will figure out a really, really powerful deck from this. And the one upside, like you might be saying like, oh, why would you ever play us over Saheeli? Saheeli's faster and you can still combo on turn 6. And yeah, that's true, but at the same time, this combo does not care at all about creature removal. So it's even less interactive than the Saheeli combo, which is already not very interactive.
Yes. It just wants to sit there and not care. Now, the only downside with this sort of deck is you have to defend yourself, and you're playing a lot of cards that their primary goal is to cycle for neutral board position. So you will need to protect yourself. And if your opponent has any sort of hand disruption, discard. Like, I love that there's this tension between this deck that wants to be at 7 at all times, the kind of Kefnet the Mindful deck, but not actually Kefnet the Mindful because you probably don't want to play him in the deck. But with the what's her name? Hazaret? With the Hazaret, the Fervent deck that wants to have both players just constantly be at Heckbent. So you've got these two decks that are kind of diametrically opposed. One of which is red-black, the other one is black-blue. And they really want to do different things.
Yeah, for sure.
One's like, let's just do this. The other one's like, let's calm down. Let's just sit here. I'm going to draw some cards. I'm not going to mess with you. Just don't worry about it. I'm just going to keep drawing cards. And Shadow of the Grave is great in both. One of them wants to refill their grip so that they can immediately discard to 0, and the other deck wants to be at 7 and then just keep piling on the cards.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the thing is Shadow of the Grave, yeah, you can also combo, but it can just draw cards. Like, if you cycle 2 things and you just got a Shadow for the Grave, that's like 2 mana, draw 2 non-land cards, which is really good. Just
at the very least, also say draw a card on them.
Yes, that's say at the very least draw the card. And also on that, like, yes, you're right. It will be hard to stay alive while keeping a high hand size. But they printed a lot of cards that like can help you do that. Like some of the cards I was looking at, like one like Censor, which is a card that's not just good in the cycling deck, but is obviously very good in the cycling deck. Like people like curving out in Magic, and this card's very good against people who like curving out. So it kind of just like
Force Spike when you want it, and then it's Whispers of the Muse when you don't.
Yeah, like that's just good, just really good. And another card, let's see, and there's like the Shadowstorm Vizier. Like it's just a 2 mana big. Like if they can't deal with it, and it helps keep them back. Like yes, and also one more card is they printed a Cycling Fog too, which in a deck where you're trying to combo them out, it's kind of like a Time Walk, like.
It's not bad. And there's also the cycling, what is the name of it? Cycling make 3 zombies at instant speed. Cycle it, make 1 Stir the Sands.
Yeah,
you can either make 3 zombies or cycle it and make a 2/2 black zombie.
For sure.
So if you cycle enough of those, 1 or 2, you can gum up the board enough to not die.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, the deck, I was thinking, like, at first when I started drafting a deck, I'm like, oh, I'll make it all in on the combo. But I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even need to do that. There's, like, tons of other cycling payoff cards. Like, you can play Drake Haven, you can play what's the Sphinx called?
Sphinx is really good.
Yeah, Sphinx is very good. Very, very good.
I don't understand what's going on with card prices right now. But the Sphinx is like 50 cents, and that seemed dumb to me. Curator of Mysteries.
Yes, Curator of Mysteries, exactly. That you just play Curator, you play Drake Haven, if you want, you can play the Archfiend of Ifnir. You can
the Devoted gains you life, so you don't die.
Yeah, it's just like you just like play cards that just reward you for cycling anyway. So if you don't just kill them with the combo, you can just play a value game. And if you know where I'm going with this might sound a little familiar.
It sounds like you want to durdle. You want to sit there, get a lot of value, and play control.
Yeah. It's also like 4-color Saheeli. Just like, so if they ban that, we just have a new combo deck. Like
they managed to combine the two things you like, competitive decks that are actually pretty good, and sitting there and dirtily gaining value.
Oh, yeah, if this is a good deck. And like also another card, which I'm not sure you play in the main deck or the sideboard, but it might be good enough for the main deck, is Ruthless Sniper. They put it in the best for the rest for some reason. It's a 1-mana 1/2 that whenever you cycle or discard a card, you can pay 1. If you do, you put a -1/-1 counter on a creature. That's nuts. That's like say I play on turn 1, and turn 2, like I cycle a curator and shoot down your toolcraft exemplar. That's crazy.
Yeah, and
to
just the aggressiveness of the cost on cyclers in this set.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are a lot of 1-mana cyclers and a lot of 2-mana, colorless cyclers, which I played during Onslaught, which was the last time cycling was in Standard was Shards, then before that was Time Spiral, then before that was Onslaught. I played during all 3, and they usually do not put 1-mana cycle on good cards, on cards that you want. And a lot of the cards that they've put 1-mana cycle or 2 colorless cycle on are cards that are not just okay. Like, they used to put it on, like, cards that were just mediocre creatures that you would play anyway. Like, there was a cycle of Alara cyclings where it was just, like, 1-mana cycle, and they were dumb creatures.
Yeah, that basically is like the Living Death deck right now.
Yeah, it was one hybrid mana cycle this card, and then the creature was just kind of a bleh. But in this format, they put 1-mana cycling on a bunch of very narrow but very powerful cards, which I think means that for the deck you're articulating, the sideboard could be nasty.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Very easily.
Because you just cycle till you get it. Because, like, another thing about the Ruthless Sniper, though, it puts it's not 1 damage. It's a -1/-1 counter. So if you can't even kill if you can't kill the creature that turn, that's no problem. You just, like, start killing it 1 turn. You keep cycling, just keep picking it, and it'll eventually die. Just ridiculous. Yeah, cycling just crazy.
You get Scarab Feast in the sideboard, which is great against graveyard decks.
Yep.
You would get access to, depending on what colors you were playing, you could easily have access to the white. What is the white? Forsake the Worldly.
That's the disenchant, right?
Target artifact or enchantment, but it's exiles. So
it's exile. That's even better.
It gets rid of the problem, and it has cycle. There's the green one that
I think it's
destroys an artifact.
Yeah, Dissenter's Deliverance.
Dissenter's Deliverance, which is a 1-mana cycle. Red didn't have, from what I saw,
no, they
have stuff that you would.
They have a 3-mana deal 3 to everything cycling.
Oh yes, that's very good.
That's Sweltering Suns, pretty crazy stuff. Yeah,
so like every color has a hoser, some sort of hoser that also cycles.
Yeah, so just so versatile, and especially because, like, I'm just thinking for modern, like the Living Death deck, the creatures they play in that deck kind of suck. Now the creatures they play in that deck are going to be really good. Like
even Desert Ceradon, which is 1 red cycle. It's a 6/4. That's a better thing if you're playing Living Death than some of the things they are already Living Death back to play.
Agreed. And like Curator of Mysteries, they're probably just be like, oh my god, I get to scry my Living Death to the bottom. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It flies?
It flies. Oh man, and it cycles for 1. Or just like, I don't know if they play the Archfiend, but at least in the sideboard it would be pretty crazy.
Yeah, or the thing that ramps. Like, there's a whole bunch of
really
decent cards that have cycling on them that there's only so bad a card can be when it has cycling 1 or 2 on it.
Yeah, because like
it can only be so bad.
There's been like decks I've tried to make for standard formats where like they're like combo-y kind of decks, and a lot of times like wait, there's just no 1-mana draw card kind of cards in this format, so I can't really get to my deck fast enough in order to find my combo. So now
it's in every color.
Now it's in every color. Every color can cycle. You can play like a 20-card deck now if you really, really want to.
My deck is full of nothing. Packing peanuts.
Oh, man.
But that's fine. This is going to be an interesting thing. For me, the thing that jumps out the most, and you know this about me, I want to play this card called Sin Prodder.
Oh, yes.
So I have not said this on the podcast. I've said this to everyone who will listen to me because I'm a lunatic in this way. Sin Prodder is a card that came out in Innistrad, Shadows over Innistrad, and it is a 3/2 menace for 3. That at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. Your opponent decides whether it goes in your graveyard or goes into your hand. If they decide to put it in your graveyard, they take damage equal to its the card's converted mana cost. Otherwise, you basically get a free extra draw. It's got kind of a Punisher version of the Dark Confidant ability, except your opponent chooses whether you draw it or not. But it is free card advantage or damage. or it mills a land in the worst case scenario. And even that's not a bad scenario if you're an aggressive deck, because that means it got rid of a land off the top of your deck. So it's not that – it's pretty much straight value, but its problem up until now for me, at least from what I could tell, is one, it's outclassed by a lot of things, and two, building a deck where you were threatening enough damage to force people to give you extra cards meant that you had to play a bunch of cards that your aggressive deck could not play. So like you were flipping a Emrakul. There's 13. They have to let you have it. But you're playing this aggressive low-to-the-ground deck, so you can't cast it anyway. So they were basically giving you cards that were useless to you, or they were just taking 2 and 3, little chunks of damage, which is not nothing, but it is not devastating.
Yeah, that card's done a lot of damage to me, though. I will give you that.
Yes. Over the times we've played, that card has done a lot of damage. It's got Menace, too, so it sneaks in damage by itself. Mm-hmm. But mana costs in Magic have never been faker in Standard than they are right now. There are so many mechanics that basically say whatever the converted mana cost is on this card, that's not actually the converted mana. That's not actually what you pay. That's never what you pay. Let me just rattle these off right quick. Improvise. If you have artifacts, you can make your cards cheaper. So even though it says 7, really it's 5, usually, or something like that. There is Emerge. You can sacrifice a creature, and that lowers the card's converted mana costs. And the Emerge cost is always cheaper than the converted mana cost anyway. So at the very least, you're cutting a mana off. Generally, you're cutting more like 4 or 5 mana off the cost. There is Cycling, which... yeah, the converted mana cost is very high, but usually the cycling cost is 1 or 2, as we've articulated. So at the very least, if you're flipping a card that's 4 mana, and they give it to you because they don't, or it's a 7 mana card, and the person gives it to you because they don't want to take 7, you actually functionally drew a 1 mana draw 1, or a 2 mana draw 2, which is a lot better than having this giant clunky 7 mana card stuck in your hand. There are the Aftermath cards, which due to a rules change in how... actually, I don't think the rules change cares for this.
No, they do. The converted mana cost is like the total when you're like flipping it. Yeah.
But when you flipped it with Sin Prodder before it was the total, the reason it matters for this was when it's in the graveyard, you used to be able to target based on the halves of the card. But I think Sin Prodder always cared about their combined. But now that there are split cards in the format again, that means that you're flipping cards that the converted mana cost might be 4 to 10 or 11, but the front half of it costs like 2. So you can still cast it, even though it has a high converted mana cost for Sin Prodder purposes. So your opponent would take a much higher amount of damage than you actually playing the card, which is awesome. There's also... what other abilities? Are those all of the big... oh, and Madness.
Wait, Madness? I don't think that works with Sin Prodder because you mill it.
It doesn't, but I mean, the converted mana cost on most Madness cards are much higher than their Madness costs.
Yep.
And if you're playing a Madness deck, you can, generally speaking, something like, say, for example, Fiery Temper. If they mill it, if they choose to not let you have it, they take 3. If they let you cast it, they take 3. So
yep.
There are a bunch of cards that, with Madness, their converted mana cost is well higher than the cost you would pay if you're building a deck specifically to take advantage of Madness. So with all of these mechanics being in Standard all at the same time, and that doesn't even count some of the one-off cards that also have cost reduction built in, like Metalwork Colossus or Bedlam Reveler, or there's that new Snake that has the Bedlam Reveler claws.
Mm-hmm. Mystic here. I got it.
Mystic Snake?
Not Mystic Snake. It has to be here. Come on. Here we go. Cryptic Serpent.
Cryptic Serpent.
Yeah, it's a serpent, not a snake.
Wow, what a dum-dum I am.
Yeah, what's Rip Snake tribal players?
Yes. So there's that card. There are some other... oh, there's that new black card, the bird.
Oh yeah, the Bone Picker. Yeah, I definitely want to get that card. I think that card's very pushed.
I think it's very pushed too. It's 4 mana, but you can play it for 1 if one of your creatures died this turn, and it's a 3/2 flying death touch.
Yeah, because my friend, he plays a lot of Grixis Delver. And that deck runs bolts, it runs pushes, it runs terminates. Some of its creatures die sometimes if you run Young Pyromancer.
Yeah, if a creature, it's not
a creature, any creature. So easy, and it fits right in the Grixis Delver. because it just gives you delvers 5 through 8. Like,
Yeah. So all of these different cards that I'm talking about, they have ostensibly a converted mana cost, but then if you just do like some of them don't require any work. Some of them just are good with Sin Prodder.
yeah.
So I want to play a Sin Prodder deck. I want to play it because all these mana costs are fake. They are cheaty. I want to play Combustible Gear Hulk, but I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't.
Yeah, don't do it. Play against the GP. It's bad. It's bad.
I need to resist that urge. I want to. Inside, I want to say converted mana cost is a thing that matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But now I can do this, and the deck will not be full of clunky bad cards.
Yeah, like I think even a couple more things on top of all the stuff you said. You did touch on the fuse cards, but one thing you didn't touch is even if they take like the 6, 7, 8, 9 damage to put it in your graveyard, you can still cast the Aftermath side.
Yeah,
like
you still drew a card.
You still drew a card, and like on top of that, another mechanic in Amonkhet is Embalm. If they give it to you, hey, you just drew a creature. If they don't give it to you, hey, look, there's an Embalm guy in my graveyard over there. Let me embalm that.
I drew a card.
So, like, you're just like another damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. Just really, really good. Maybe this is the time to shine, or prod.
Maybe it's time. I mean, the downside with Sin Prodder is it gets caught by literally every board wipe. All of them. Yeah. All of them hit Sin Prodder, and Magma Spray exists.
Yeah, it's true. No, it does die to a lot, but
it dies to a lot of stuff. I'm not sure if it's going to be good enough. But the nice thing is, if you're in black-red, so the two ways I'm thinking of building this deck are black-red Heckbent or blue-red kind of tempo-y, more value-based, more controlling. If you went black-red, you get access to Dread Wanderer, which is a 2/1 that comes back if you're Heckbent. You can pay 3 mana to bring it back. Every turn, which means if you mill it for some reason or discard it, you still have it in your graveyard. And there's Scrap Heap Scrounger. So you can have a graveyard full of garbage that just keeps coming back.
Oh, man.
Which is really annoying and really good for an aggressive deck. But if you go with the blue-red version, then you end up with stuff like you can play the Sphinx. You can play Glyph Keeper, which is another pretty good Embalm card. There's a number of pretty decent blue Embalm cards.
Oh yeah, I think the Embalm cards are really pushed. Like after Sin Prodder, I think like the two best ones, well, the two that really stuck out to me at the very least was like the obvious one, the Mythic Angels, like Angel of Sanctions. That card, card's because like one of the things that like I don't know that I noticed at least that maybe other people noticed, maybe they didn't. I don't really know if they noticed or not. Is that says non-land permanent. That is so much better than the normal creature that this thing usually gets. This thing can get a planeswalker, it gets an enchantment, gets an artifact. It just if it's there and it's bothering you, it's gone. Like
it takes and it takes and it takes.
It's a gift that keeps on giving to you and taking from your opponent. And if they have a removal spell for it, you just play another land and embalm it. It's just unreal, like because they have to have 2 removal. Like at worst case scenario, they're down a 2-for-1, and at best case scenario, they're down a 2-for-1. So,
yep,
it's just
all the Embalm cards. Even if the Embalm cost seems high, the thing you need to remember is all of the Aftermaths and Embalms are free cards.
They are free, very free.
Most of them, as long as the front end is not egregiously overcosted, which almost none of them are, which is crazy.
The funny thing is, like the one that does have an egregiously overcosted is still good because the Embalm cost is ridiculously low. I'm talking about Honored
6/6
Hydra.
trample.
Yep, Honored Hydra.
Yeah, but like Glyph Keeper, the 5-mana 5/3 that has the Jet Kite ability from Kamigawa, whenever it first becomes the target, or Glass Kite ability, whenever it becomes the target of a spell or ability for the first time each turn, counter that spell or ability. It is very resilient to point removal. And then its Embalm cost is 7, which is high. But you know what?
It's free.
It's free. You shouldn't be able to do it.
Like
you shouldn't be able to get it back.
The card's already fairly statted. Like I was thinking, like, oh man, I'm 5/3 for 5. That just dies to everything. I'm like, oh wait, it dies to nothing.
Yeah, and it has flying. And the crazy thing is, in a deck in the blue-red version, you can play Drownyard Temple and things like that when they go to the graveyard, you can get them back out of the graveyard. You can still play with the cycling lands. There's a whole bunch of really cool interactions. You could potentially play Drakehaven and go heavier into cycling. There's a bunch of different angles you can take. And this deck might have some of the most unique angles to building. Like, so many cards have such a low opportunity cost, or they have and like such a high value when they're in the right position that I think it really rewards deck building in a way that and opens up options that have been previously closed.
Yeah, it's like playing a deck that's not Mardu vehicles or 4 colors to Healy, perhaps.
Yeah, like before, if you were the person who was like, you know what, I'm going to get those decks. I'm going to play main deck Authority of the Consoles, right? I'm gonna bring it in. You know, this format's really messed up. I'm going to play that. You know what happens if you run into a rogue deck or if you run into a Mardu vehicles player who's good? You just get
smushed.
You get plastered. You get plastered. But if you bring in a 1-mana hate spell or, you know, something like Scarab Feast.
Yeah, I love Scarab Feast. There's so much good graveyard stuff. It's such a needed thing.
If you play that in the main deck, that's not embarrassing.
Yeah, it just cycles.
It just cycles.
Just gets out of here. Like the one other Embalm card that we didn't cover, though, that I think like this card, like everyone's like, it's okay. And I look at this card, I'm like, guys, this card is awesome. Is Vizier of the Many Faces. On its front side, it's Clone. Clone's always been a card that's like almost good enough for standard, but not quite, and understandably so. But now it has a 5-mana flashback. That's ridiculous. Because they kill your clone, you just get it back the next turn.
Battlefields change.
I know. It's just
battlefields change over time.
It's just like so much value. It's like 2 clones on one card. It's just I just don't understand why people
exactly that.
I don't understand why people don't get why it's good. I don't get it. It is so pushed. It is ridiculous because the creature quality in standard is so high. Therefore, the clones are pretty good. And you get 2.
As someone who played Altered Ego in standard for like just because I love that card, just being able to clone a Kalidas and give it a couple extra counters was plenty good.
Yeah, this card puts Altered Ego to shame. My God, It doesn't even make you play green. Just says let's just play blue.
I think the only thing I want to hit on, because we've talked a lot of
Amonkhet,
we talked a lot of Pro Tour and GP stuff. The only thing in Amonkhet that I think we haven't covered even a little bit that I'd like to talk about is a little bit of the green. We've covered every other color pretty extensively.
Yeah, okay.
And the green -1/-1 counter aggro decks are look really scary to me.
Yeah, I'm just like the one thing I was like looking at those decks is there's a weird balancing, like a little balancing act you have to play with that deck because like you probably want to play cards like Winding Constrictor, but at the same time you might not want to play cards like Winding Constrictor, and just like you have the +1/+1 counters too, which kind of have different synergies you want to have pay them off, which not meaning like it'll be bad. I'm almost certain it won't. I'm just saying like making like the deck is going to be very difficult on day one, I believe, figuring out the right cards to play.
Yeah, I think looking at some of these cards, so the cards I'm thinking about are Exemplar of Strength, which is a 2-mana 4/4 that you can put 3+1.
-1.
When it comes into play, you have to put 3 -1/-1 counters on it, or on a creature you control. It doesn't have to be Exemplar of Strength.
It does not.
Whenever Exemplar of Strength attacks, you remove a -1/-1 counter from it if you do gain a life. So it can gain you 3 life over 3 turns, but if you have something like a... what is the name of that 1-mana card?
I think I know what you're talking about. It's the Patra's Mark, right?
No.
Oh, no? Okay.
I'm thinking of Brood Pod? Or Birthing? The thing from... not Birthing Pod. It's from Oath... it's from Battle for Zendikar. Blister Pod.
Oh, Blister Pod. Oh, I see. Okay, I see.
1/1 that when it dies, it makes a Scion. If you play some cheap... creatures in green-black, which is the color that has these -1/-1 counter synergies. If you play things like Blister Pod, like Carrier Thrall.
Oh, I see what you mean.
The black... What is the black-green really good? When creatures die, you scry.
Oh, yeah, Catacomb Sifter. That sounds great, Sifter. Not to mention it.
If you play Catacomb Sifter, if you play dudes that bring dudes to the party who you don't care if they die, then you just get to play these cards that are way undercosted, as long as you have sacrifice fodder for them, basically.
Yeah, like I never even thought about it like that. That sounds pretty good. Like the only problem I had with when I saw the what's called Exemplar of Strength at first is it is initially a 1/1, and in a format with Walking Ballista, you always got to be careful about stuff like that.
But it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be though. That's true.
As long as you can have a creature on 1 that you want to die. Like, Blister Pod is a card that you actively want to die because the Scion side is better than the 1/1.
Yeah.
So if you kill that, you've accelerated yourself to 4 on turn 3, and you've played a 4/4 for 2.
Yeah.
And then on turn 4, you can play pretty much anything. Like, you can sacrifice that Scion, or you can play another thing with -1/-1 counters on it. Like, if you went turn 4, Crocodile of the Crossing.
Oh, yeah, that's the haste one, right?
That's the haste one. You're swinging with a 4/4 and it would have to be a 4/3 haste because you wouldn't have the Scion anymore to put the counter on it.
Well, couldn't you put it on the Exemplar? Then the Exemplar kind of just like take it off.
Yep, and he takes it right off.
And you even gain a life for your treble.
Yes. So you've on turn 3 swung with a 4/4 and a 5/4. So you've hit them for 9 on turn 3.
Yeah, not to mention like they printed a couple uncommons in like the best of the rest, like Defiant Great Maw is one I was looking at. So it's a 3-mana 4/5. Then on ETBs, you put 2 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control. And then whenever you put 1 or more -1/-1 counters on it, you remove -1/-1 counters from other creatures you control. So if you have a creature with -1/-1 counters on it, it's a 3-mana 4/5. Like, that's pretty good. Or like there's like a Flame Tongue Kavui kind of guy that they printed for that. Here it's Soul Stinger. It's a 4-mana 4/5. Then when it enters the battlefield, you put 2 -1/-1 counters on something. And then when it dies, you put a -1/-1 counter on target creature for each -1/-1 counter on the Soul Stinger. So it kind of likes counters in that sense. So you can kind of just like drop them all on this guy.
Or Plague Belcher.
Oh yeah.
It's a 3-mana 5/4 that when zombies you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. And it's fine with putting -1/-1 counters on shit that you don't care about if they die. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's a lot of potential because all these things are undercosted as long as you have fodder.
Yeah, not to mention, I think one of the cards that was spoiled the earliest that gets me the most excited about this deck is Nest of Scarabs. It's whenever you put -1/-1 counters on them, you get that many. You got that many, not one, that many 1/1 black insects. That gets out of hand so ridiculously fast, it's almost laughable. And, like, let's say you throw Westvale Abbey in your deck because, like, the opportunity cost of that's, like, basically 0. That's like an Ormondal. It's, like, basically for free. And you can exactly.
It's important. It's whenever you put 1 or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, including your own.
Or your opponents for that matter. Like, if you play -1/-1 counters, like, the new rare, like, the green-black guy puts counters on, well, puts it anywhere, but probably on your opponent's creatures. That just also works with the rest of the deck, now that I thought of it, because you put okay.
Yeah, and Ronus the Indomitable.
Oh yeah, that's
3-mana 5/5 that gives things +2, +0, and trample.
Yeah, that card.
And it just needs you to have Ferocious, basically, to be able to attack and block.
Yeah, this is
like,
one card.
All of these different synergies, I think, are really... They lead to a different version of green-black than what we think of with green-black Snake. Like, green-black Delirium might combine with these things, but the Snake wanted you to just have a bunch of small dorks that you then made bigger. This one is like, these cards are big, and they will get small if you don't have good places to put the -1/-1 counters. But if you do, they're just incredibly cheap and big up front.
Yep, like big stuff, green-black.
Yeah, Snake wanted you to be synergistic with... You had to synergize in order to get big quickly. Like, you had to go Snake, then Rishkar, then Gear Hulk. Whereas this, you can kind of go any kind of 1/1 that you don't care about, and then any of your 2-drops, and then any of your 3-drops, and they'll just get bigger. Yeah,
and some of them, like, even like the Channeler Initiate, that card, like, I'm just okay putting the counters on that card. That's just good stuff, because, like, making mana is great. Mana of any color, for that matter. So, like, and then, like, once you're out of mana, you have a 2-mana 3/4. That's awesome.
And there's this card that's back in the format called Fling.
Oh, yeah, Fling. Yeah, I might try that in Electrostatic Pummeler if that deck's playable.
Yes.
Oh, man.
So, I think we've covered most of the stuff in Amonkhet, and we're only scratching the surface.
Oh, for sure.
I think that Kaladesh is one of the more powerful sets I've seen in recent memory. Like, it's just got some bonkers broken stuff in it. Amonkhet, I think, is less obviously busted, but I think that more cards have marginal value or playability than in Kaladesh.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's less in-your-face Gideon, Ally of Zendikar, Heart of Kieran, Archangel Avacyn cards are just like, boom, so powerful.
Marvel.
Yeah, so powerful. But, there's a lot of cards you can put around. So, yeah. So, we didn't even, talk about Nissa or Samut, which also just look ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah, we can leave that.
Those both look busted.
Yeah, oh, my God. We can leave it at that for now. But,
yeah. I'm going to be bringing to light Samut Voice of Dissent.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling it's sometime in the future I'll be like, what's a good 5-mana card? Oh yeah, the Flash, Double Strike, Vigilance, Haste. Other creatures you control have haste. 1 mana, untap another target creature.
It's about as flexible. It's I think of it as a piece of silly putty. It's just so flexible. You can just kind of mold it to do whatever you want. Do you need to be aggressive? Okay, let's just get it in for 6. Oh, you need to be controlly? Okay, let's flash this in, untap your big creature, or just block for 6 power. Oh, do you need play around control counter magic? Oh, I'll just flash this in whenever it's convenient for me.
It's Chroma, Angel of Anger.
Yeah, dude. It is.
Little Chroma, baby Chroma.
It's very comparable to Avacyn, except I don't know which one's better. I couldn't tell you. They're both they're both crazily good. But the fact that you can compare it to Archangel Avacyn means this card's the real deal. So
this format looks like it's going to be really fun. Brewing's going to be really fun. I can't wait for it. And Kyle, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Walking us through your GP experience.
No problem. It was great.
All right, great. So remember, if you want to get in touch with the show, you can do so at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you, Kyle. And till next time, listeners, peace!